Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Ahlulbayt TV Presentation. My name is Zakariya Elian, and I'm originally from Tennessee. It's a state in the South, which is close to like Kentucky, Arkansas, southern states. Which the town I'm from is Jackson, Tennessee, which many people may be familiar with the country that's near it, or the state, I mean the country. Nashville. Nashville is about 2 hours where I'm from. And this is where mainly I was born and raised. Not born, I was born in Chicago, Illinois. But originally this is where I was raised for most of my life. And this is fairly no Muslim there. There's absolutely no Muslims here and there, very few. As my childhood, all I remember basically is like from a religious standpoint is that I knew my father was Sunni. He was of the Salafi madhab. But he wasn't the most devout practicing Muslim. So there really was never no influence there. And plus, as a young person, maybe the age of 2, my parents, they separated. So I lived with my mom most of my life until I moved out. And my dad being non-practicing Muslim, there was no influence there, so there wasn't an attempt to try to convert me and my siblings to Islam. But my mother was always a Masih, a Christian. And that's all I knew. So as I was growing up, I was a Christian. And we went to church every Sunday. We did the holidays. We practiced everything and the rituals of the Christian faith. But it was never something that was deep embedded in my heart as something that I can firmly say, this is my way of life. This is the deen, this is the religion that I firmly stand upon. But this is basically it, that I had 2 brothers, an older brother and a younger brother, and a sister. My older brother, Camille, he's 3 years older than me. And then my younger brother, Spencer, he's about 3-4 years younger than me. And my sister, Layla, who's 1 year older than me. And they were Christian as well. And we were all brought up Christian. But there was one instance when I was young, I was about the age of 12, I went to visit my father. I'd visit him on the weekends or on the summer breaks from school. And my grandparents were coming to visit as well. My grandparents is from Jordan. My dad is Palestinian. And when they came, I remember seeing they went to a room because the living room was right in front of the room and they left the door open. And I remember seeing them, they put the rugs. So that put an image in my mind. The Arabic rugs, you know, we see on CNN news a lot of propaganda and propagation about Islam and Muslims. So then I seen them pray, and I seen them do all the different the acts that come with the prayer, and it did something. You know, at that time it was an amazement, but it wasn't something that I could grasp. It wasn't something that I could say, I know what that is, but it left a mark on my heart. But that's one instance that I do remember. And also, you know, occasionally seeing Quran, the Holy Quran in the house. Of course, you know, usually the cover green with the Arabic on it. I remember when I was around the age 15, I was staying with my dad for the summer. I grabbed the Quran, and for no apparent reason, I just felt like taking the Holy Quran itself and writing Arabic on paper, practicing writing Arabic. And when I would get done, I would show my dad, and he'd be like, it's very nice, it's very good. That's one interaction I had with the Quran. And then later, of course, you know, about 17, I remember I had the Quran, and I spoke with my dad a few times. He showed me a video about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it really didn't grab me at that time. But it left an impression on my heart. Again, you know, little seeds that were planted that blossomed later. But that's mainly from. Well, I was in, I did all my school in Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee. The beginning school, middle school, high school. And the schools that I went to, there was no Muslim. There was no really interaction with other faiths. Everybody mainly practiced Christianity, and very few Judaism, Jews, and some were Hindus. That's mainly the contact of other faiths that we've had. But the schools there, you know, the school system was very loose. You had your gangs, you had your cliques, you had all these different aspects. So it was easy for an individual to get misguided, to be easily influenced to join these types of cliques, these type of gangs, these affiliations. So there was a lot of bad influence of the schools that I grew up in. And everybody was doing everything beside lessons of school. So it was very hard to focus, but you know, everybody got by. But that was the main thing. The schools, they had no structure. There was no structure like you see in like an established school or a college or a hausa. On September 11th, that day we were in fourth period of class. High school has 4 periods. And in the 4th period, our teacher turned on the TV because all the classes had TVs. So as we were watching the TV, they said news alert. And on the news alert, it showed that the 2 planes as they hit the Twin Towers. So my initial impression was just shock. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what was going on. I remember a few students in class, they were, you know, crying because they had family members, distant family members that worked there, and possibly were killed as well. So when I went home, I went to my friend's house. He lived right down the street from me. I went there and we talked. I was like, what happened? What's going on? And he explained it. So I was just like, I was in amazement. I really couldn't really think much. I couldn't say much. It was a shock. And from the aspect of knowing that my father is Muslim, I really don't remember what I thought. It was just, I couldn't believe what happened. And I was like, I just pray and hope that they don't give a hard time to my dad. Because just the simple fact of, beside being Muslim, if you look Middle Eastern or you look Arab, the people automatically assume you're Muslim because they think of it as a religion, a deen. So I just hoped and prayed that at that time that, you know, my dad would be safe from harm, they wouldn't abuse him or, you know, accuse him of anything, because it was a lot of pressure on Muslims all over the world after this incident happened. But other than that, everything was smooth. Nothing happened to him. Everything for the most part was okay. But other than that, I was in total shock. I wasn't Muslim. I was still Christian at the time. But at the same time, inside deep, I was like, this isn't something that I know that any religion would encourage, to just kill and blow up yourself. So I had an idea that this was an extremist aspect of the deen of Islam, not the actual deen of Islam. You know, I had enough sense to at least evaluate that and be like, this can't be blamed upon all Muslims. You know, this is something that even in all faiths have extremists. Every Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, they all have their extreme aspects of it. After high school, you know, the situation with my family, the hardships. Soon after I graduated, I started working full-time. You know, help out the family, get things for my own, because I didn't have a father figure. My stepdad, who my mom remarried to, he died of cancer previously 2 years, or about a year before we moved to Jackson, Tennessee. So the family was still unsteady, and after high school, I felt that it was more important at that time to work full-time, get on my feet, get the things I needed, and help out the family as well. But after that, I eventually entered a trade school. I didn't want to go into college and do all the long years and come out and just be like, okay, then what? I wanted to get something that I could get in a year or year and a half and go straight to work, like trade school. So I did trade school for masonry, Freemasonry. And I did that, finished it, completed it. But that's the only school I did after high school, other than working full-time. My sister, she was also working full-time. She hadn't yet entered a school for like hair beautification, like stylist, hairstylist, but she was working full-time as well. She was working, doing things on the side, but not yet entered college as well. My older brother, he took classes in like self-improvement, or like when people get out of prison, or when people are on drugs, or, you know, like, I don't know what you call it, but like special services, like to help the people who are addicted or have addiction, to help them get on their feet, or that sort of process. But my little brother, he was still young. He was still in school by that time. And my older brother, like I said, he was in the school, and I was working full-time. before I entered trade school. When I met a friend in Tennessee, like I said, there were very few Muslims, but the few that were there, they stood out. But I remember seeing him, and he had the beard, and he had the, what you call kufi, the kafaya. And I knew right away that he was Muslim, of course. But this time I was like, okay, I want to ask you a few questions. You know, I'm very curious because I had a lot of curiosity that I wanted to know about Islam. What was it about? Not so much for conversion. My initial motivation and curiosity wasn't to embrace Islam necessarily, but to at least ease my curiosity. So when I asked him, he's like, let's sit down and I'll explain a few points. And he's like, you know, Islam is just the religion of all prophets. The prophets that are mentioned in the Torah, the Bible, the Gospels, are the same prophets mentioned in the Quran as well. And he explained that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon his family, that he was the final prophet, the last prophet. He was the seal of the prophets that came with the final message. So I took that point and I thought about it for a while. And I was like, because coming as a Christian, you know, we always hear the stories of Prophet David, of Prophet Ishmael, of Prophet Isaac, Yaqub, Jacob, all these different prophets that are mentioned in the Bible, especially Jesus. So when I told him, I said, let me see the Quran, if you don't mind. I'd like to take it home, read it, just look at it. English translation, not Arabic. So as I'm reading, I come across certain ayats, certain verses in the Quran, and it would mention the prophets like Yaqub, Ishaq, all the different prophets, Dawood, Isa, alayhim salam, all the different prophets that I remember reading about in the Bible. And I remember hearing about in childhood stories, you know, all the different sermons we hear in the church. So I was like, Ajib, you know, this is strange. Because I had the impression that Islam was a deen of the Arab, like Lebanon, Jordan, all the Middle Eastern states. That it was something confined to them. They're Muslim, we're Christian, we'll just leave it at that. They have their religion, we have our religion. And then Prophet Muhammad, I didn't really think nothing much. I was just like, he was just a prophet who was Arab, and that's all I really knew. But then as I'm reading, and then the concept stuck out. It came back what the brother was saying, that all the messages that the Anbiya or the Mursaleen, the prophets and messengers sent and gave to the people was Tawheed, was to preach the oneness of God, to preach to submit to God. Because it was hard to grasp the title Muslim, because it was an Arabic term, and I felt like it was more of an Arab thing instead of like a religion thing. But once I got down to what it actually meant, that Muslim means one who submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it started making more sense. And then looking at it from the past of the other prophets, they were all Muslim because they all submitted to the will of God, and they taught the people to submit to the will of God, to believe in one God. So that was the initial. So we talked, we discussed. I read the Quran again, and then I remember I went to the front of the Quran, and it has like an introduction story, and it spoke about how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had the initial revelation in the cave when angel Gabriel alayhi salam came and revealed the first revelation. For some reason, I didn't really understand it much, but just reading it, it did something to my heart. It touched my heart, and it affected me very much. So the next day I went back to the brother and I asked him, I said, what else can you tell me about Islam, like other aspects? And he took me down and basically taught me the usul al-din. Like we have salat, we pray 5 times a day, we fast during Shahr Ramadan. There's a specific month that we fast the whole month. And then he said we pay zakat, etc. You know, all the different usul al-din, or the foundation of the deen that are obligated upon us, such as Hajj as well. So I said, okay. And then he, one by one, you know, he broke down little by little, you know, step by step to help me get a grasp of what the deen of Islam meant. All through life, you know, all through my life, I always wanted that spirituality. I think it's in everybody's nature to want that nearness and closeness to Allah. Want that strict lifestyle, the structure. And I always wanted that. You know, if you like, growing up, we always watched movies. And in some movies, you know, you see sometimes some people, they had that spiritual awakening. and they totally transform from their bad way of life to a good way of life, and they become devout people of God. So that always encouraged me when I seen that, but I never had that push. I never had that strong motivation to really practice this way of life. And plus, as Christian, you know, it didn't give that motivation to me as well. So with that in mind, you know, I went back to the brother, and I talked to him some more, and I said, I'm thinking about converting. I said, because in Islam, it's very beautiful. I said, it's no different than Christianity and Judaism, but better yet, it came after it. It's a succession. You know, the prophets of Moses came to the tribes of Israel. After him, Prophet Jesus. And then after Prophet Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. So I understood the succession of the prophets that came one after another. And it started making more sense. And of course, you know, the tawfiq, the inspiration and the success that Allah helped open my eyes and helped me see that. So I sat there and I talked to him, and I said, I want to convert. I took the decision that I was like, I'm going to convert. I was back and forth, should I not? But I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go for it. You know, of course, you know, there was hesitation because I've been raised all my life Christian, as a Christian. And it's not easy for a convert always to make that big jump. So it's some hesitation. But I embraced mainly because, you know, in Islam I saw structure. I saw a systematic way of beliefs. They were definite, they were explained. In Christianity, we didn't have that. In Christianity, if you look in the Bible, it's hard to see many verses that talk about the akhirah, the hereafter. In the Quran, it speaks explicitly about verses of what will happen in the hereafter, whether it be in heaven or it be in hell. And also like the structured laws that are in Islam. In Islam, we have a set basic laws that we go by. Whereas you find in Christianity, there's not that as much. Like it's more of a moral discipline, a moral guideline, not so much as laws. If you ask a Christian, why do you eat pork? They'll tell you that it's allowed. There's nowhere in the Bible that says it's haram, it's disallowed. So there's not that strict guideline to where it says this is halal, this is haram, this is allowed, this is not allowed. So that itself, I needed that structure, because as a Christian there wasn't structure. I felt like I'm just going to church on Sundays, I'm taking the title of a Christian, that's it. There wasn't no strong foundation of beliefs, of laws. And then we have also Sunnah, the way Rasulullah did, the acts he did, what he said, and what he silently approved of. So we had every basic act that we can think of, whether it be waking up, going to sleep, showering, brushing one's teeth, dressing. There's a specific act that Rasulullah did that we follow as well. But we don't have too much of that in Christianity. We can't say that, well, you know, Jesus, he dressed this way, he ate this way, he said this before he ate, after he ate, he said this. He gave us a strict guideline on how to eat, what our diet should be. None of this is found in Christianity. So mainly the structure and the strong belief system, that was the main thing that motivated me to embrace Islam. Just me and two other brothers. Another brother, he was learned. He had a lot of knowledge in Islam, and he taught the community. And I did my shahada with him, the testification. And it was just me and two other people. There wasn't no like ceremony or, you know, he became Muslim, but it was just 3 people at that time. But later it was announced to the community that, hey, Zakariya, he embraced Islam. He's Muslim, you know, come to him, talk to him, help him, etc. My name was given to Zakariya, but my mom and dad agreed to give me a name that if they wanted to call me by English, there would be an English equivalent to it as well. So you have Zakariya in Arabiya, and in English you have Zachary, or short for Zach. And then also in Hebrew, Zakariya. So there was that switch you could do with my name. Like if my mom wanted to say the English, which of course she did, she would call me Zachary or Zach. But my father would always call me Zakariya. Zakariya. It was after my conversion that living in Jackson, Tennessee, there wasn't barely any Muslims. And the Muslim community that was there were all Sunni. So before that, a few steps back, I remember I seen a friend, also another friend, not so much a friend but an acquaintance, and he was Shia. And after being Sunni for about a month, I got the basic beliefs of what the Sunnis believe, etc. But I really didn't know no difference between Shia and Sunni. So the brother, I basically asked him, what is the difference? What is the core difference between Shia and Sunni? And he basically broke it down. And he said that, of course, we believe in the 12 Imams, alayhim as-salam, the spiritual guides after Rasulullah, who protected the community from misguidance. And then he also said that one of the other core differences between Shia and Sunni is that Sunnis believe in Qadr. They believe everything is predestined. But us Shia, we believe that Allah is Adl, that Allah is just, and that Allah ordained certain things, like where we're born, where we'll be born, and things like this. But there's also other things that we have a free will in. We have a limited free will, and that we're able to do certain things, and there's some things we have no control over. So this made sense as well. And then he mentioned a concept. He said that the Sunnis believe that all Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they all believed that all the Sahaba, all the companions, were good. They were infallible. Not infallible in the sense they didn't commit sin, but they couldn't be accused of any bad act, or you couldn't degrade any one of them. You had to respect them. It was absolute. So then as a Christian, I look back that even the 12 disciples of Isa, Jesus alayhi salam, there was good disciples and there was bad disciples. Every community of every prophet, there was always good and there was always bad. There was never a community that every single companion of a prophet was infallible, or not so much infallible, but never committed sin, never committed a mistake, never went back on his faith, or went even against the prophet, because we have this also in Christianity. But with the Sahaba, I could grasp that. So then after that, we continued to talk about the main differences between Sunni and Shia, and then he just broke things down. And then I converted to Shiism after the conversion from Christianity to Sunni. So I took it upon myself to take the books that I had in my access, in my reach, to do research my own, because I had to have the certainty of myself, not just what somebody else told me. So I went through Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, and I remember seeing one distinct hadith, because it took me back to one of the points that the brother made. He said that one of the aspects of the Shia is that they believe that the Imams, the 12 Imams, were the guides after Rasulullah, instead of and particularly just the companions. The companions had their role, but they were the main guides. So the hadith says that Rasulullah said, يَكُونُ إِثْنَ عَشْرَ أَمِيرًا كُلُّهُمْ مِنْ قُرَيْشٍ. So I looked at it and I read it, I was like, this itself says 12 Imams, 12 Amirs. Different hadiths say Amir or Imams, differences. But for the most part, we understand what it's saying. So I went back to the brother and I said, is this one of the narrations that you use to support your belief as a Shia? And he said, yes. He said, this is not the only one. He said, there are many, many hadith narrations in the books of Sunni that support Ahlulbayt, that support the guidance of the Imams after Rasulullah. So through that, I took the books and I read more and I looked into it more. And over time, things started coming to the light. And then also, like reading the Quran. There's the verses of the Quran that speak about Ahlulbayt. Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu ati Allah wa ati Rasulah wa ulu amri minkum. So it said that, O you who believe, obey Allah, obey His messenger, and obey those in authority. So of course, there's two sides of the argument. The Sunnis say, no, the people of authority are the rulers, or the people who are in authority in general. But the Shia say, no, that we have authentic narrations that have come to us from Rasulullah and Ahlulbayt that say that, no, this is specifically the Ahlulbayt, the family of Rasulullah, the Imams. So this helped as well. And plus I had access to a Shia tafsir. It was like a simple tafsir, nothing major, but the general interpretation of the Quran with hadith from the Imams. And I would run across this as well, look at the different ayats, compare it to the Sunni tafsir. So I was kind of back and forth, just comparing, studying, asking questions, until finally, alhamdulillah, Allah gave me tawfiq. Allah opened my heart, and He helped me see the beauty of Shia Islam and the different aspects of the beauty of the different beliefs and that revolves around Ahlulbayt, and particularly alayhim as-salam. So after that, I became Shia, the place where I was at, of course in Jackson, Tennessee, there wasn't many Muslims, and the Muslims that were there were Sunni. So on top of that, I felt very restricted. I felt very like I was in a tight spot because I was reading different books that I would order from Iran. I got books in Syrian publications. I would write them a letter, they would send me books. So in English translation, English books. So I would read all the time, different Shia books about the beliefs, history, and particularly history, because the history opened my eyes to a lot of things that occurred. So this itself, it helped a whole lot. And I just kept reading. But at the same time, as I'm reading, when you read something new and it's exciting, you want to share it. Anytime you learn something and it's exciting, you want to share it with somebody else. Or you may have questions. So I had access to Facebook. So I had, shuyukh, scholars who were from Qom, from Najaf. I had other brothers who were studying the seminary in the house as well. But it's not the same being in physical contact with other Shia and being able to converse with them, interact with them, and other things like that. So I felt very restricted. So what I was doing, I was working and I was doing trade school, and I had my mind made up that I was just going to work trade school and just study as much as I can, because my studying was just a passion. It was a love. I found something very beautiful, and I just wanted to get more and more and more and learn more about it. So the brother mentioned to me, he said that, as much as you study and as much as you're into the religion, you should go to the Hawza. So at the time I knew nothing what Hawza was. He said it's a seminary where students come and they study full time. So I said, okay, I'll take that in consideration. So I went to a friend, he's Ali, he's from Basra, Iraq, he's a Shia. But I didn't really associate too much at that time. So when we talked, he said, yes, this is what the house is, this is the layout, this is what you'll do, etc. So I said, okay. So I went home, I thought about it, and I thought this was a very good idea. This is the main thing that I've been wanting. So I went on Facebook, and I talked to a few people, got some advice, like, what do you think? It's a big step, but what do you think? Like, yeah, if that's what you want and Allah is guiding you in that path, take it. So the next step was that I needed contacts, because I tried calling the Hawza, and it's not the easiest process. So I was trying to make contacts. So it just so happened that I went on the internet, I went to different websites, Shia masjids or Shia centers, and I was trying to get as much contacts as I could that I could call them, get questions. Could you help me in the process of getting to Hawza? So they're like, oh, okay. So I came across a scholar in Dearborn, Sheikh Hisham Husseini, and I called him, and I didn't know who he was at the time, but I just called a random center, and it just so happened to be him. And I asked him basically, I need help. I need help with Hawza. I want, a contact that can, put me on the right track, what I need to do, because I have no idea what to do. So he said, fine, that's okay. He said, just come to Dearborn, and we'll show you around, and this and that. But I had a full-time job. I was working. I was settled. So I was kind of scared. I was afraid to take that big step at first. I was like, how do I drop something for a chance that something might happen? I quit my job. I give up everything. But at the same time, I thought to myself, I said, anything we want, we have to make a sacrifice. We have to drop certain things that we're attached to get something better. We have to take a chance sometimes. So I said, okay. I said, after calling again, I said, okay, I'm going to come. So I dropped everything, I bought my bus ticket, and I moved to Dearborn. So when I got to Dearborn, I met the sheikh. He got me in contact with other two Iraqi brothers that I was staying with him as well. So when I was working in the center, it was during Shahr Ramadan, I was helping out during the month of Ramadan, setting up chairs for the majlis, the lectures at night. And the person who so happened to come speak was Sayyid Bakr Imrani. And I remember sitting to them, talking to him in the library. We were in the library. And I asked him, I said, do you know anything about the Hawza? Can you can you help me as well? What can you do? So he said, let me make some calls. Let me see what I can do. Initially, we tried to get into Najaf. I was just going to go ahead and go to Najaf first, come to the Hawza and study. But we had second thoughts that, well, maybe it's better that we can find a Hawza in America that you can learn Arabic, you can learn the basic studies, get strong, then go to the Hausa in Najaf or Qom, whichever one you choose. So he called, he made contacts, and he called my teacher, my foreign teacher, Maulana Beg. He has a Hausa in Florida, Sanford, Florida. So he got in contact with Maulana Beg, and he talked to him. And he's like, yes, I had this guy, good brother. He's a convert from Christian to Muslim. He's looking to have a place to study. What can you do? So Maulana Beg, let me talk to him. So when I talked to him on the phone, he was like, if you can come by September 6th, you're in. I was like, wow, is that easy? I was like, I can just come? He's like, yeah. So of course, when I got there, I did the paperwork, but nothing was done. Just like, if you want to come, come. If you're here at this time, you're accepted. We have an open bed for you. So I was very excited. So that was the transition from Dearborn to Florida. So when I moved from Florida to Dearborn, then I moved to Florida to enter the Hausa in Sanford, Florida. My mother, I remember one of the first things she said that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So in other words, at the same time, she's like, it's good you have a stand, but make sure you take a stand with this. Don't be wish-washy. Don't be with it one day and the next day I'm on something else. In other words, encourage me that if you're going to do something, do it all the way and do it wholeheartedly. But there was hesitation. Of course, as a mother, her son embraced a religion that's other than her religion. Every parent wants their sons and daughters to be on the same religion as they are, to give them that reassurance that they're on guidance. As for my mother, the initial response wasn't good. There was hesitation, there was hurt. But after a while, she's seen the change that compared to how I was when I was non-Muslim to how I am as a Muslim, she's seen a big change, whether it was from akhlaq, my conduct, whether it was how I treated people, how I treated her, how my attitude in general was with life. Islam gives you a broader outlook on life. Everything has meaning, everything has a purpose, and that we understand that there's a life in the hereafter and we have to work for it. And we have to try to do as many good works as we can and try to please God always and be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But with my dad, it was a different story. Of course, my dad being of the Salafi madhab, Salafis have a very intolerable mindset towards anybody other than their beliefs, even amongst other different Sunnis. There's a lot of criticism from the Salafi community or the Wahhabi community. So my dad, of course, I remember I was in Dearborn, and me and a friend were in a coffee shop, and we were sitting having coffee discussing. And I remember he called me and he said, your mother told me something about you becoming Shia. Is this true? And of course I was trying to be, as polite as possible because we had to respect our parents. And I was like, yes, this is true. And he simply says, Shia are kafir. He said, Shia are fil jahannam. He said that Shia will go to hell. Shia will not see paradise. He said that the Shia madhab commit shirk, associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I was trying to be as calm as possible and as polite, but I was like, no, Dad, this is not what we believe. We believe in strictly tawheed, the oneness of Allah. And I'm sorry that you had these misconceptions, but these are not true. And we sat there and talked, and I tried to break down as much as possible. But sometimes when you try to talk to a person that ain't trying to hear the other side, you get nowhere in the conversation. So I kind of just shut my mouth, and I was just like, okay, Dad, I had to go for now. Inshallah, we'll keep in touch. So it wasn't a strong response. So since then, the relationship has kind of been distant, but of course, it's my obligation as a Muslim to keep contact, to keep ties. It's haram to break ties with your family. So I always had to keep that. And it was very difficult at times to humble myself because there was one part of me that wanted to say, forget him. Oh no, with Allah. But the other part is like, no, I'm a Muslim. I'm different now. I can't have that same attitude, like forget everybody if they're against me or they have differences. I had to change that mentality within me. So I was like, no, you be the better person, keep contact with him, call him, and do what you can. And at least you know that you're pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Florida, they have a program under Maulana Beg. He has a specific program that's laid out for not just converts, but for anybody that doesn't have the strong basics of Arabiya or Aqaid, just getting a stronger foundation in the core subjects of Hausa. So it's a 2-year program that specializes in teaching Nahu, sarf, which is Arabic grammar, to help get better at reading Arabic books, because once you come to Najaf or Qum, the books are either in Arabic, or in Qum there's Arabic and Farsi. So you have to get that tool itself to open up other doors to get the knowledge. That was one. Then, of course, fiqh, usul fiqh, mantiq, and all these other different subjects that we study, like mantiq logic, to study the different aspects of logical thinking that protects one from making a mental mistake, like Arabiya, sarf and nahu. It protects one from making a mistake of the tongue. Or when you're reading Arabic, it protects you from making mistakes in your reading as well. So these are the different subjects we studied. And I stayed there 2 years. But when I talked to Maulana, I asked him, my plan is to go to Najaf or Qum, either one. I said, will I be able to go after this? I don't want to just study 2 years, go back to the States, and go back to the same thing I was doing. I said, if I do it, I want to go all the way. I want to study years and years and years. He said, that's the whole plan. He said, when you complete the 2 years, we'll either send you to Najaf or Qum, it's your choice. So I said, okay, bet, I'm coming. That's the initial plan. So after the 2 years, I graduated from the seminary. Of course, I bought my ticket, and I just remember I wasn't so much focused on the Hawza initially. The main thing I was longing for was ziyarah to Imam Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. That was the main thing that I was focused on. Hawza was secondary. That took the second spot for the time being, because of course the Shia, and we love Ahlulbayt, and we want to visit their shrines. There's a hadith narrated by Rasulullah. He said, Inna la kulli shay'in asasun, asasu Islam, hubbana Ahlulbayt. He said that for everything there's a foundation. And the foundation of Islam is love for Ahlulbayt, love for the family of Rasulullah. So then I got my ticket, and there's a saying in Najaf. They say that if you come to Najaf for Hawza, for knowledge, you'll get nothing. But they say if you come for Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, then you'll have everything. So when I got here, I was like, well, that's the mindset I had. So inshallah, everything will fall into place. So I came to Najaf. I've been in Najaf al-Ashraf for 3 months now. And the experience has been the most beautiful experience I've ever experienced in my life. It has been spiritually uplifting, mind-opening, eye-opening. And it really helped me see a different part of the world, because this is, of course, the first time I've ever been to the Middle East. So that was an excitement as well, to see the different lifestyle, the different culture, all these different aspects. And then, of course, the Hawza itself is a beautiful aspect of Najaf al-Ashraf as well. That is the Hawza in Imam Ali, or the foundation of the Hawza in Najaf al-Ashraf. As a Shia, of course, the love of the A'imma, the Imams, is a very strong love as a Shia. There's a hadith where Rasulullah said, what is Islam except love? So Islam is based, love is based in Islam. This is the foundation of Islam. And one of the aspects of coming to Shiism was one Imam that I connected with always the most, that helped me with the transition to Islam, with the permission of Allah, was Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam. Because even when you read history and you hear about all the different aspects of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali, whether it was in battle, his bravery, how almost all the battles that he defended Rasulullah, that he defended Islam, that he helped save the Ummah from the opposing enemy, whether it had been in the battle of Badr, whether it had been in the battle of Uhud, with all the different, all the main people on the opposing side who were the best fighters, Imam Ali alayhi salam, destroyed them. He wiped them out. That Rasulullah said that La fata illa Ali, la sayfun illa dhu fakar. In the battle of Uhud, when Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was fighting and he was defending Rasulullah, that he was fighting so hard that his sword broke. So Angel Jibreel alayhi salam came down and they gave him dhu fakar, a sword from the heavens. So this is one aspect. But also as well, that this was the main dispute between Shia and Sunni, Imam Ali alayhi salam. This is the dividing line. That Imam Ali was the one that they say, no, he was just a Sahaba, just a normal, ordinary person. No, the Shia say, no, he was a divine Imam who was divinely sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So reading the different hadith about Imam Ali, Rasulullah said in one hadith, Zayyinu mujalisakum bi dhikra Ali. They said they beautify the gatherings with the remembrance of Ali. Or when Rasulullah would go into a gathering, He said that whenever there was other people, but Imam Ali was present, all my attention would be on Imam Ali, despite other people. Normally, he said that I would give attention to everyone. I would make eye contact with everybody to give him that respect. But when Imam Ali was present in the gathering, his attention was just on Imam Ali. So this aspect, it opened my eyes, and ever since then there was always that intense and close connection with Amir al-Mu'mineen, because reading about him, you know, it just impresses you, the different characteristics, his character, his worship, everything about Amir al-Mu'mineen. It impressed an individual to say that this had to be somebody sent by Allah. This can't be no ordinary individual who's just a normal companion, but it had to have been somebody who was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My aim, of course, is to complete at least 10 years in Hawza. I want to be able to get very strong, be very learned, so that when I do go back to whatever community Allah wills for me to go, because of course we plan, but Allah plans also. So, you know, we can have a plan, but Allah may want us somewhere else. But whichever community I go to, or wherever place in this world that Allah wants me to be at, that I want to know and be reassured that I'm firm, that I'm not just somebody who knows a little bit. Of course, any knowledge we have is a little bit, but I want to at least be firm in the little knowledge that I do know, so that when I go back, I can teach other people. And the main thing is that I just hope to be an inspiration for people, that they can see that somebody can come from a rough background, came from as a Christian, he became Muslim, came from Sunni, that came to Shia, that other people can do that as well. Whether you're a Jew, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, that we have to keep an open mind. We have to research, we have to look at for ourselves, and not just accept everything that our community or our family give us, but we have to look into it ourselves. We have to get that yaqeen, that certainty in our own heart. And I just hope that this is going to be inspiration for other people as well, to help bring them to Islam, to help bring them to the love of Ahlulbayt alayhim as-salam. You know, the one aspect of Islam is not so much what we say all the time, but it's our akhlaq, our actions, that Rasulullah, he helped many people come to Islam by his good conduct, by the way he dealt with people, by the way his relationships were even with his enemies. A quick story to give an idea of this is that when he would walk past a woman's house, she would always abuse him and throw trash on him. So one day when he walked by, there was no trash. The woman was absent. So he was like, where's she at? I must check on her. So he inquired about her, and the person said, she's sick. She's on the bed, and she's close to death. So he said, I have to go visit her. So he went to visit her. When he visited this old woman, she was so shocked, and she just started crying. So we look at that the way he even treated those who treated him bad, the enemies. So this is, you know, I hope, inshallah, that, you know, not just through my words, or not what I will say, but people can get inspiration also through the actions. You know, and a lot of times converts who convert to Islam are people who are on the verge of converting to Islam. There's that hesitation of what will my family think, what will my peers think, what will my community think. You really have to put that to the side and do what you know is right. Anything in life that we do, it takes sacrifice. Nothing comes easy. Nothing comes with comfort. Everything comes with hardship when it's worth the sacrifice. When it's something you're working hard for, it's never going to come easy. The same thing, you have a teacher and you have a student. If the teacher sees potential in the student, he's going to test him. He's going to try him hard. He's going to put him to that hardship. It's not easy. The same thing as a convert or somebody who's on the verge of converting to Islam. That they have to just be strong-minded and just focus and know that if I know this is the truth, I have an obligation. This is the truth, I have to embrace it, regardless of what people think. The thing that matters is what Allah thinks, what our Creator thinks. That's the main thing that's going to count. So I hope that, inshallah, that people can be inspired and inshallah, at least take the step to research. If anything, to give that motivation to research about Islam, to see what Islam is. If anything, at the end of the day, it can be that they have more of an understanding of Islam now. They've rid away all the misconceptions of Islam. They dispelled the misconceptions that they've been taught. So, inshallah, I hope to achieve this as well, inshallah. Only by tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.